And here we are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei, Alma. That's me. That's warm. That sun is warm. It's not like it used to be. Uh, so, what do you remember? You know, it's interesting how people, they don't remember, how they lose value in what it is they thought they valued. And then they just believe in what they're told. So we're told we have a democracy. We really haven't had that since this. 1947. That's when the National Security Act went in, when COG was created, COG, continuation of government. That's when pretty much whatever is the Constitution, I mean, that was long, since the Civil War, it was torn up. It doesn't exist. The Civil War is all about corporations, right? Civil War was all about money, not states' rights or slavery. I mean, we're all slaves. No, folks who were had more melanin in their skin than we, uh, melanin challenged. We're all Africans. I'm an African American that's just melanin challenged. So here you are. Two of you watching the show. One of you is artificial intelligence, and oh, Ulysses. Morning, dude. It's the year my mom was born. Well, that's cool. I mean, that was, your mom was born in the year that we became a fascist military dictatorship. We talk about civil rights. We talk about, well, it's real today. Ooh. Hey there, bitch. We talk about civil rights, and, we talk about, China's bad because look what they do to the Uyghurs. Well, how about India, one of our allies? Half of their population Muslim, and the other folks who aren't the Hindu, and not just the Hindu. Hindus are prejudiced against other Hindus because it depends on what Are you a dirtbag or are you a rich person? That's how India looks at Indians. Like Modi. Modi looks at people. It has so many branches. Yes, that's right. Like look at the Baptists. There's 60 more plus thousand sects in the Baptist religion. This guy came up to me the other day because, around here I go to lots of different churches and I go to the fellowship, meaning Bible studies. And I don't, quote the Bible. I parse it. Right? And so I tell stories about it, and people love stories. So let's see. He has a caste system. Thank you. I was listening for that one fish. Caste. That's it. And part of the BRICS nation. Yes. Right. So, and you know where the BRICS nation came from? Oh, back before COVID. There were other pandemics that we never really cared to get upset about, but like the Hong Kong flu that killed more people in the United States than COVID did. A few other things. There were some other bird flus that were pretty nasty. There was SARS, the first SARS, which, man, if that got a hold of you, you were dead. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We just got lucky on that one. But there is no luck. It's all scripted. And there's another pandemic coming real soon, kids. And COVID destroyed whatever little thread or shed or even pretending we have a healthcare system. and we will lose at least 1 billion people, if not more. Right? And the people who will survive it will be the more interesting folk, right? Not the rich. Oh, they'll survive it, but they don't have long-term viability. Uh, so whatever geopolitical structure we have, so you've got to realize um, this year, 47, so we had the biggest, baddest military. We didn't get bombed. We had a big industrial section. We absorbed all the Nazis into our political and scientific and our education and economic system, along with the Japanese, and then basically made this. We had the only, we have 900 bases around the world, right? Air bases, look, they're in all those little oil-rich nations that have no viability, meaning they don't represent anything of historical base. The people who are there are just rich because they're corrupt and could be bought, and that's what happened in Africa. Yeah, BRICS. Yeah. And so the BRICS, they were shut out of the vaccine scene in the 70s, I think, and that's why they came together, so they could, basically protect their own people, and that's why India became one of the biggest, and China. China and India make all the drugs. Period. Right? We don't do anything. We own the proprietorial. We make the money, but we don't have the manufacturing things, and we're building it back now, and that's why we're having a bit of a they call it when things cost more, um, and all they're doing it's a form of taxation. Back in the day, taxation without representation was our big go-to slogan, and that's what we got now. We have this whatever you call it. Things cost more. They don't cost more. I go into Walmart. There's certain products that cost the same, if not less, than before the pandemic. Like the Good Deal English muffins. They're $1.25. Before COVID, they were $1.35. And there are other things like that. So none of this stuff really holds water. They're just, manipulating. When you have a economic system that is like the Federal Reserve, which is a privately owned corporation, it's nothing to do with the government. It's as federal as Federal Express. I think Federal Express has more to do with the government than Federal Reserve, right? It's owned by, 9 other banks by stock held, right? And everyone's going, oh wow, Social Security is going to go bankrupt. Well, it was designed not to, because the money you as a worker goes in there not to pay for grandma's health care. No. It's to buy these treasury notes that were one of the reasons why it was there. There are these special treasury notes that are only sold to the Social Security, and that backs up their economy, right? Because all of this money's coming in from the workers, right? So, but now as people getting older, what Social Security is doing, they're not borrowing money from the federal government. What they're doing is liquidating those trusts, right? Well, we've got a ton of them there. But what happens is when that money from the workers isn't going to buy trusts, but the trusts are being liquidated to pay. There's enough money in that trust to last a really long time. And the Congress and Senate have borrowed from the trust to pay for wars, right? And so, the federal government owns that trust, owes that trust money. And so when I say that Social Security is going to go bankrupt, what it means is that this country is going to go bankrupt and not be able to pay that trust. Did any of you kids know that? No. Just like this guy, like I said, I go to these different churches and I parse, the word. And so a lot of people love to corner me and try to ask me something about the Bible, blah, blah, blah. Right. So this one guy was going, America's a Christian country. And he showed me this picture of like the Christian flag. I don't know where that came from. And the American flag. And they were like fluttering together. And I said, so, do you know what the First Amendment is? Free speech. I said, no, no, no. Free, but that's part of it, but that's not what it is. The First Amendment states, literally, I quote, the federal government will make no law through Congress to create a state-run religion, thus giving the individual the right to express themselves freely on their religious beliefs and to gather to express their religious beliefs and to, basically put forth to the government in free expression, meaning to go, have a political debate freely, as long as it's peaceful, right? So, January 6th was, not one of those. It wasn't peaceful, right? And that was kind of part of, because after the, Revolutionary War, most people didn't want, who were in America, didn't want, most of them wanted to be English, right? They just fought a horrific war with the French and Indian War. You should go check that one out. It's like, whoa. That's it. Me that even groups that all meet in the same church are part of said church are still have their own idea of God. Exactly, that's how it's supposed to be. Individual belief. Right? And when so that's why, a lot of people, Social Security is a false promise and a false premise. Thank you. That was very nice. Very, mumbles. But again, people don't even know the structure of it. Meaning, it was, what do they call that? 3-card Monte. Oh, where's the bean? Where's the bean? Where's the ace? Where's the ace? Right, 3-card Monte. And so we are so divided and so confused because everyone is spending their time on one of these devices. And every time you Google something, Google's Googling you more than you're Googling Google. I remember, when was it? 2002? Maybe not even. Maybe 99, 98. I had basically sold I didn't quite sell it yet, but I had properties in Lynchburg, where Jerry Falwell was, right on the main street. On the further side, I guess which side is that? Let's see, that's east, west. Was that south? No, north. North, the north side of Main Street in Lynchburg. And Lynchburg is a beautiful city. It's like the San Francisco of the South. And the James River comes through it. There's 2 big bridges, and I was the furthest one, instead of the one that's off of 460 is, and this one, whatever that was. And I had this big factory building, like 18,000 square feet, right under the bridge, right? And I had a lot of property there. But, came up the bridge, you kind of circle down. You could pull in 20 tractor trailers and was loading platforms. And it was right on the railroad tracks too. I had a gigantic covered loading platform, right? And it was 3 stories high, right? And I bought it for $18,000. It was unbelievable. A friend of mine told me about it. He had bought half the other side of town at a lease, and he said, "I don't have the money. Do you have any money?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Let's go to the tax sale, right?" So we did, right? And that piece of paper thing came up, and the bottom, the least you could pay for something, that piece of property, it was 3 acres downtown Lynchburg, right? Underneath right there, right on the river, right? Yes, the railroad tracks between the river and the loading platform, but still, the river was just right there, pretty big. And from the 3 stories, all those big windows were based in the river and the railroad tracks. Anyway, so we went to the auction, and basically, when a property came up, not a single person was interested, and it was 18 grand was the lowest price you could go for. So I said 18,000, and I said sold. Went over, gave him a check. They gave me a precursor to a deed. Once that check cleared, I could come back and get the deed. I did, right? And we made up a LLC because he was really gonna, he was gonna pay me when he had the money, like 3 times what I got on that, right? And in between, he would pay for everything to fix it up, and I would, if we rented it out, we'd split the profit, right? So, and I lived under the bridge, and it was really nice because there wasn't that much traffic on that thing, but it was a hum. And it would put you to sleep. It has a much bigger flag these days. You? No, I've never returned to jobs. I mean, I might go visit them, but I do not do the same thing all the time. But I realized recently that I do have a pattern in that why I've been able to do so much stuff in my life is that I really, I go, I lived in New York. New York was my town. And, from age, when did I go to Teresa's? 13. I started hitting the road at 13. My parents didn't even blink an eye, you know. They didn't worry. They didn't send out the cops, all the above, right? And so, when I had my own place at the age of 15, and in a way they was happy. They didn't have to have me around, right? They didn't electrocute my mom. So I was on the bop. And I had this fixed, Grandpa Stahl and Mike Stahl, who was more my dad than my father. My father was just a sperm donor. And Mike was true righteous dude. And his dad was, the first guy to ever have an electric license in America. Nikola Tesla's bench, all those great things Nikola Tesla invented, Grandpa Stahl built, I mean, Tesla would give him a drawing. Hey, Mike, how do you make this? And Mike was as much a luminescent genius as Tesla, but, he wasn't Nikola Tesla. Close, right? He started the IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electric Workers, right? NABET, IATSE, right? I mean, he was predominant, right? And that's kind of my whole life. I've had all these godfathers and godmothers who were like leaders in what they did. Lisette Modell, Cartier-Bresson. I mean, I think Cartier got a Nobel Prize for a shot of a soldier in the Spanish Civil War dying, and it was called precursor to the end of the world. It was. Spanish Civil War was where the Nazis honed their skill for World War II. Anyway, so all these people, Billy Kluber, the guy who brought modern art to America, he was studying at Oxford and at the Louvre and in the 20s, and he brought all these great artists from Europe, and so he curated the Armory Show. Let's see what Google says about the Armory Show. Armory Show in New York City. Armory Show brings world's leading international contemporary and modern art gallery to New York. Let's see when was it? Oh, no. That's the modern one. When was the first Armory Show?
February 17th, 1913, according to NPR. On February 17, 1913, the International Exhibition of Modern Art opened at the 69th Regiment Armory on Lexington Avenue in New York. The Armory Show, as it came to be known, had a profound effect on American art.
And that was brought by Billy Kluver, my mentor, right? And he, and that address, right, is right where the Council on Foreign Relations is right now, or right near it. And Billy was their in-house wizard because he was part of Tesla's crew, and he was also part of. Let's see if we have anything about Billy Kluver. People who really are really are usually not, kind of invisible like me. Billy Kluver, New York City. No, not Billy Ray Kluver. No. See, they didn't even have him. Billy Kluver, CFR.
According to Wikipedia, Johann Wilhelm Kluver was an American electrical engineer at Bell Telephone Laboratories who founded experiments in art and technology.
That's my boy. Yep. So we had this thing called Art and Technology House in the CFR. And like I said, he was their house wizard, right? And so at 10, I used to walk. My parents lived on 69th off of 3rd, between 3rd and Lex, or Madison, I'm not quite sure, forget. Right across from Hunter College. And our apartment was on 21st floor, and we had like a little, balcony. I mean, like what they call it a deck. I don't know. It's about, 10 feet out and maybe 18 feet long. And we had a table out there and chairs. And you could have a little hibachi maybe. But we had, in actuality, in the living room, in the master bedroom, a working fireplace. This thing was built in the,
Can I get you anything, sir?
Oh, warm me up?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. And
Need more water? You're doing good.
I'm doing good. Thank you for your keeping an eye on me. And so that was Billy Kluver. So anyway, I would walk the dog, 69th to the Central Park, right? And as we would walk by, the CFR has no real front door. They had a big gate you drive in, right? But other than that, no doors, no windows. You can't see it. The windows are like up on the 3rd story. And it's a big castle. It looks like a big fort. Council on Foreign Relations makes sense. And it's an American version of Rhodes, Cecil Rhodes, Rhodes Scholar, right? Billy Clinton was one of them. Anybody's a Rhodes Scholar, it's like bad news. And so anyway, I would walk by, and they had this gigantic window, and it was the same kind of window that was in the Museum of Modern Art, and where the guy had the water lilies, the big painting of the water lilies. I forget his name will pop into my mind. Let's ask. That's why Google's so great. Who painted the water lilies for the Museum of Modern Art?
Claude Monet. According to MoMA, Claude Monet, Water Lilies, 1914 to 26, MoMA.
Yeah. So he did this painting, and they built a window that was curved, so there were no reflections. So when you went by, you thought you could walk, and the way they placed it, it looked like you were out in the woods, and that was a pond, and you could walk into the pond. A lot of people tried to step through the window because they thought there was no window there, but it was curved. And it was designed so if you tried to do that, you would fall down into like thing that would catch you, and then you'd have to climb out. Yep, real wild time. So, thank you.
Sorry, I took your half and half. I thought it was butter.
Nah.
I'm sorry.
No. You're doing great.
Thank you. Did I get you anything else?
No, I'm good.
Doing good?
What's on the lunch menu?
I have to go check it. What I can
Yes. I thought it would be starting to rain before now. Look at that. So that's what this place normally looks like. It's just kind of a rainforest. It usually starts to rain in the afternoon. Yep, it's beautiful out here. Soon to be destroyed. The cockroaches from California and Texas and Florida and Charlotte. I used to live in Charlotte when it was a little town of 160,000 people, and they called it the Queen City. And virtually every neighborhood had a park in it. And there were parts of Charlotte that had old growth forests. I had a friend of mine, his grandfather had built I don't know, housing development, really beautiful 1930s southern colonial kind of houses with the big white columns and the porches all the way around. And it was like a 70-acre forest that was his.
I have the menu right here.
Oh,
We
okay.
don't have prime rib, cheddar, or baked beans, but this is what we do have.
Okay. So it's some biscuit, bologna and cheese sandwich, prime rib, no prime rib. Pulled pork, yes. Grilled chicken. What's real? I had those. That wasn't bad. Hot dogs, fixins, hamburgers. Let's see, tacos, beef, sour cream, extra, potato salad, barbecue beans. Oh, you don't have the beans.
Not today.
No, but you do have them.
We will have them eventually. We just haven't gotten a food order.
Right. My that's like one of my favorite things.
Is it?
Oh, I love baked beans. How about you?
I'm not a big fan of them. I can't get into them.
What do you like?
I like them here
No,
or just in general. I like a barbecue sandwich.
Mhm.
I like a hamburger. I like some steak.
You know, those things are great if they're good.
Yep.
If they're not good, it's like eating
Then it's-
cardboard,
Yeah.
especially
right.
barbecue. It's
Uh-huh.
like, do you know over there in Hampton where the Dollar General is, and there's that little cafe there, right? That lady's husband makes the best barbecue.
Does he?
You ever go in there?
I haven't yet.
They've been there forever.
Yeah, they have.
And you know, in that place that used to be the captain's fish thing right on the lake,
Is it
the thing that burned down,
Oh, yes. Southern Craft used to be there.
Right,
And
right.
before that was,
Captain's
Captain's
Table.
Table.
Right. Well, that was one of my favorite places, Captain's Table.
yeah, me too. That was really good.
Had a great view. I could go there,
Mhm.
like you
Beautiful.
sit, coffee, right? And they had my favorite, really great grilled cheese,
Her grilled cheese was really good.
and they had that crab bisque. You got them together, right? So I was disappointed because I went in there and those guys said, it wasn't like the greatest barbecue.
The Southern Craft, yeah.
It was a bar.
Yeah.
It's his bar. Now they'll probably build, Las Vegas there.
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing there. I used to work at Southern Craft in John City.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. And then I moved to
That guy does have a bunch of stuff.
He does.
Do you ever go to the Black Olive?
I did. I like Black Olive.
Those people are really great.
Are they? Yeah, they are good.
You know the Mexican, in this the Black Olive and then the Mexican restaurant on that strip there.
I can't remember the name of it, but I know what you're
They're
talking
run by
about.
the same guys.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
If you like Mexican food, you should try them out.
I think I have tried them once. I just can't think of the name right
Right, me neither. But I eat lunch. They have great lunch specials. I'm a
Yeah.
lunch special guy.
now. Are you?
Well, you get the dinner
Mm-hmm.
for lunch. It's like the same thing that you would get
Yeah.
for dinner, but it's instead of $12, it's $8.
Right. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal. But I don't go anywhere unless I'm going like 10 different places.
Right.
I have little budget. So,
Yeah.
so let's see your palm. Hand your right leg. Put it up. an interesting girl. You never do anything the same way twice. You're real close to best. You never spill the beans. A lot of deja vu, a lot of vivid dreams. Turn your hand this way. Lots smarter than you give yourself credit for. Your best characteristic is empathy. Sympathy is, oh, that's too bad. Get out of my way.
Uh-huh.
Empathy is, man, I've been there.
Yeah.
And the other good thing you have is you get straight to the job.
Mhm.
You don't smoke a cigarette, have a cup of, you don't do any of that. You get to the job. What's your astrological sign?
Sagittarius.
Sag is really good. It's like the even keel of the astrological symbols.
Yeah.
The other ones that can get carried away. Sag's not so much. Like I
Mhm.
said, and you also keep people guessing. You're like a Tootsie Pop. And hard outside with but that nice soft on the inside. It's you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, back to it.
Can I get you anything? You good?
Do you have desserts?
Desserts? I don't think we do.
Not yet.
We could probably just have
Yeah,
like
no,
a
I
candy bar
don't
or
even
something.
no. Unless you make it, I'm gonna take it. That stuff is like
Interesting.
yes. Arf. Grandfather David. Oh, yes. He was the elder of the Hopi. He held the prophecies of the Hopi, right? Of the white buffalo. And so how I met him was I kind of stumbled into New Mexico in whenever, I guess 72, or like between 72 and 70, whatever time that Nixon got thrown out or resigned was when I was in New Mexico. And what it was I had this beautiful sweetie from when I was hanging out at Juilliard, right? And she was a great dancer. I was taking a course of dance with Carl Off, a great choreographer. And that was her mentor. And and I got put there by a guy named Lester Polikoff, who was Joe Malzina's the father of modern theater lighting, because he brought, before electricity, there was just gas lanterns and candles. And Joe Malzina invented, the Fresnel, the Lico, the Scoop, you name it, he did it, right? And he also brought perspective into, before scenery was like flat. And it just, it's just, not the best. Whereas Joe, Malzina's sets and lighting were like magic. No one had ever seen anything like it, right? And Lester Polikoff was his best boy. And best boy is the guy who does everything. So if you're a TD, which is technical director of a theater, you're in charge of everything technical. Designer designs the lighting, usually lighting and sets. Custom designer does customs. Director, choreographer, musical director. That's it. Right? Best boy communicates with all those people, and the designer keeps everyone on the same page. So that's what Lester Polikoff did for Joe Malzina, and that's what I did for Lester Polikoff. And that's how I got a lot of jobs. That's how I became the Emmy at Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, what other theaters? Theater in New City, Herbert Burgo and Uda Hagen's theater down on 10th Street. What other theaters? A bunch. I was, I worked for Billy Graham, Fillmore East, and the guy, Bob Goddard, who owned and ran Pig Lights and Joshua Light Show. So that was And that's how things worked in New York. You knew one person, he'd spread you around. If you were good, you got spread around. And that's how you got a prominence, meaning a reputation, right? And what gave you gravitas, well, this kid can actually do it. I mean, I got a job to run the theater department at Newark College of Engineering when I was 21, 22. And only because they offered a job to Lester, and he said, I don't want to do that. I'm like 90 years old. But this kid, he'll be great. So that's how I got that job. So that's where I met Beth B, right? And she and I just, as soon as and we were in this dance class, and she was already a great dancer, right? But she was in there because she had to. She was like matriculating through, you know, that school, Juilliard. Me, I got put there, because Billy and what's her name? It'll come to mind. Marion Tulin, who was on the board of Lincoln Center and Juilliard, and she ran Hofstra Theater Department, right? And she did a lot in TV and Broadway and England. Anyway, so she saw me put on a show of JB, which is a 1950s piece written about Job, the devil and God, and right, there you go. And I produced it, directed it, co-directed it with my teacher at the Winchester School for Boys, right? And we went to the Columbia Broadcasting, where we competed with other schools, and we kept getting number one. We small school, teeny, right? There was only 8 people. I did everything, right? She and I made the costumes. I did the sets. I did the lights. I did everything. Right? And I usually, if somebody didn't want to play a part, like it was an all-boys school, so I played all the women, right? And I remember my teacher, when I was playing this woman's part, she said, I need to show you how to be a woman, right? And she was really, and she took me to her apartment, and we went in the bathroom, and she took all my clothes off, and she took all her clothes off, and we got in the shower and soaped up. And she taught me all about being a woman, right? And that's why my wife told me I was the best lesbian she ever knew. So anyway, see, I digress in the storytelling. So anyway, so I meet Beth, and I'm living in Soho. Beth has no place to live, and so she comes and lives with me, right? So we're a thing, and so I'm kind of going to Juilliard, but I'm not matriculated. I'm just there so I don't get, dragged off to Vietnam. And I'm meeting lots of great people, and I'm learning great stuff. I mean, learning to dance was one of the greatest things, and to really, I kind of, I played saxophone in my grammar school. I couldn't, you really have to, not be bothered by the reed when you play a reed instrument. And I just couldn't get over it, just things to my teeth. So anyway, Beth and I are a thing. And there is a guy named Robert Wilson, right? And he had a Robert Wilson Dance Company, and he had a loft on Spring Street. And she and I would go there and dance. They had, on Thursdays, had this thing called Free Night, right? So you go in, and he had his own dance company, he had his own primary characters. And he was a writer, but he couldn't write crap. He wanted to do operas, modern operas. And that's where Philip Glass got started with him, right? Atonal music. And so Robert came from a real well-to-do family, but he was a ne'er-do-well. He shot through his money before he was 35. But his cousin, Knowles, what was his first name? It'll pop into my head, Knowles. But anyway, his parents were super, super wealthy, and they died in a car crash. So this kid, got millions, and Robert became his, he controlled his wealth, right? He was a power of attorney, right? It'll pop in my mind. Anyway, and this kid had real serious autism, not on the spectrum over here. He had the serious autism. He was like Rain Man, but brilliant, right? And he loved words, right? So, um, Pez and I go to that, right? And what I was doing in those days was fixing up lofts and then selling them to people who want, still Soho was still artist and still like fringe. It was like living in Alphabet City, but not as dangerous like in the 80s. And this was the 60s um, and early 70s. So anyway, and I didn't have the money to put down on, I didn't have it, you know, whatchamacallit. No, I did have a checking account, you know. Anyway, so I always had what I needed, and I could go into, I was like old school, meaning I built so many restaurants and so many theaters and so many nightclubs. I could go into any place, have a meal, have the best seat, have as many cocktails I want, and I'd never be charged, right? And people would be on the Odeon, because back in the day when the two Jewish people who owned Towers Cafeteria, which became the Odeon, I was their electrician because their wiring was 1920s, tube and peg, building, anyway. So, and all their appliances were like from the 1920s too, because they were like built into the kitchen. So when they sold, they didn't sell the building, but they said, here, and they built the Odeon, and they said, you need to have this kid as your electrician because he knows every square inch of this place, every valve, every switch, everything. So they did, right? So, and I redid everything. I had new service, knew everything, straight up, brand new. You don't want to have a modern kitchen with 1920s electrics. But anyway, and my buddy, who was as good a plumber as I'm an electrician, and my buddy who was a good mason as I am, right? So I had a crew of craftspeople around me, and we would go, if they got a job, we'd all get the other sub parts. So we were always doing great with money. I mean, never wealthy, but always had more than we needed at that moment, and had carte blanche anywhere, right? And the people in the real know, who had the real wealth, who had the real power, we were appreciated by them. The other people who tried to be, I remember, what's his name? Oh, it'll pop into my mind. He was an artist, and he became really big like that because his family was wealthy, and bang, went off to art school. He did that, and he got very well known for his paintings, big paintings, and he was right up there with Rauschenberg and anyway. So I'm just giving you a feeling of what that time was. That was a great time, right? And I was the dude of that time, and there were different dudes and dudettes put in there, and we made like, the high hand of culture, right? And all those rich people who were my godfathers and godmothers, they loved the fact we were like the young Turks doing this and doing stuff that they couldn't because they were more mainstream. But we could do the stuff they wanted to have done, and we would do it. And they would give us money to do it. It was the best of times, man. And it was the worst of times. 70s, people go, oh, the crime now. People don't realize that the United States went bankrupt from 1968 until 1998, right? Then we had this big boom, and then we had a dot-com bubble, and then we had '08. See, it's like our economy has always been in the dumps because we are the leaders. We are the bitches. And that was the War of 1812, when England read us the Riot Act, hey, bitches, you do what we say, or we'll burn this place down and start over again. And that was the War of 1812. Anyway, the other war you should go look out about what made America was the French and Indian War. It made like what's going on in Gaza Strip look like nothing. And there are a lot of great history books about that, and nobody really reads history books anymore. And ever since Roosevelt got rid of the gold standard, yeah, people don't realize that it kind of happened then, and not, because what's his name? Nixon, he basically, see, the gold that was in Fort Knox was Rothschild's money, and he wanted to take it out. So he took it out, and what gave equity to the United States was us. We were sold down. Remember, you go to any town, any city, any county, it says, "Welcome to Larry Land," you know, incorporated village, incorporated county, incorporated state, incorporated country. You're all, we're all on the block. That's why we're all African Americans. And some of us melanin challenged. So anyway, so Beth and I are in this thing called, Robert Wilson's Dance Company, and we go there and we are the best dancers because she is the best dancer. And if you could just move, being with her, she would like elevate your ability like through the roof. Because it was like having sex with her when you were dancing with her. She was just. I'll dig up a photo of her. And so we had this great relationship. We knew that we couldn't live with each other. I mean, we could, and this is where I got my timing thing. So she knew that I would find a space, I would fix it up and sell it to some, rich boy or so, wanted to live in Soho and later in Tribeca. And but it would take me, about 5 to 8 months to do the whole gig. And so in that time, first thing I did was put up, figure out how we're going to do it. I would build one room, put up the walls, have a nice big closet, put, and then move her in so she'd be happy. And I always would sand the floors first because I had sanded the floors 3 different times before I would put down the covering, then the polyurethane. Right? I had a buddy of mine who was Mr. Sanding. So, because these were all industrial buildings, so those wooden floors, yeah, they were oak and parquet and looked really nice, but they had been used as a factory floor for 80 years. So, it took a while to get it to that smooth, beautiful, bowling alley look. So I'd hem in there, sand the floor, and I'd just put down a coat of cheap poly that you could sand up real quick and not hurt your machine. And so she could dance, right? And so she loved it. And I got into one factory building that because it was full of stuff and nobody wanted to go clean it out. So me and Bosquat was my assistant. The guy was Samo, right? They made a movie about him where Robert Dufault was playing me. Go watch that movie about Bosquat. And David Bowie was Andy Warhol. Anyway, so because I met Andy Warhol when I was about 17. Frank Vigiani owned Vico Electric, and all these things you can go Google and give me all these names and places. Yeah, it was that. It was called Bosquat. Let's see what Google says. Do. Movie about Bosquat the artist. Movie with Robert Du. Is it Robert Duvall? No, Robert. What did I just say? When your mind's going. See, I got a lot of stuff up there in my memory, but I forget the thing I just said. I forget where I just put my keys. Right? That's why I have to put everything exactly where it should be. Otherwise, I spend the rest of the day looking for it. Robert. He played the Green Goblin. I guess. Okay. Robert Duvall. We'll see what Google says. Who played the Green Goblin in Spider-Man? William Dafoe. That's it. Movie with William Dafoe about Basquiat the artist.
Basquiat has a cast of more than 60 actors. Here are the first three: Jeffrey Wright, David Bowie, and Benicio del Toro.
They didn't want it because, I already forgot the guy's name. The ball. His part in the movie is so how Basquiat got found. So I'm rewiring 420 on West Broadway, right? And I got my big 12-foot ladder. I'm way up in the ceiling, and I'm trying to put these new track lights in, which I thought was so boring. And because I wanted to light that guy's art gallery like a theater, put pipes up and put instruments so we could really do something. But he said, "Well, this stuff, that's great, Al, because I did do that once. That's an art piece." He said, "That's great, but I don't want to have to bring you in every time I change a piece of art. So I just want this new stuff called track light, so I can have my boy move it around." And I said, "Okay." So I'm up there, and Scott's down there, and this place that we cleaned out. It had boxes and boxes and boxes of synthetic sleeves to sweaters, not the sweaters, just the sleeves, and some of them were like 90 miles long. They didn't. And so basically, we, and one of the things we found was just tons of art supplies. And so basically, he said, "Can I have those?" I said, "Sure." And he was living, we were cleaning it out to live in this place, to slice it up, to sell it to lawyers, right? And so he said, "Can I have?" I said, "Sure, yeah, this is all yours." And so there were these really nice cards about this big, and these nice Depocret, that kind of oil painting crayons, and so he was just like, shh. And so he's there, not even listening to me, just drawing these things on the cards and throwing them on the ground. And I'm way up on the ladder saying, "Hey, give me that screwdriver. Come on, get that." And so he's there, and he's got about 30 of these cards around his feet. And in George, I forget the guy's name who owned 420, but he comes in with Andy Warhol. And they walk in, and I'm way up there. And Andy knows me because I'm his electrician. I've known him for years because I was in the electric supply store that was on 16th Street and Broadway, right near Union Square. And he was a smart one. When we were all moving into lofts, and the city was giving us a hard time, he put a big sign over his loft saying, "The factory." And so when the inspectors, "Oh, it's a factory, no problem." And so, but this guy, again, it was a building wired in the 20s, and he had like these gigantic silk screen printers and the things that made it, so he had gigantic quartz lights, and he was making movies and he kept having electric fires. And this guy comes running in, and a large person, kind of a trans large person, who's the star of Andy Warhol movies, and then became, larger than life in the movie biz. Anyway, I forget her name. Anyway. Anyway, I'm running in, and all the electricians are like, because this guy has, this like little thing on, and he's gigantic, and it's all spangly and makeup like I can't believe it looks like an ostrich. Divine, thank you. Divine runs in, "I need an electrician," and all the electricians like stand back, and the guy, Frank, looks at me, looks at this guy, goes, "Hey, this is your man." And I'm like 16, and I have my little tool bag, and so I come in there, and things are like smoking and sparking, and I go over and I just hit the thing, and there's a few boxes on fire. I kind of take my hat off and blow them out, and I start just taking everything apart. And "What are you doing?" I said, "Listen, buddy, this place is about to burn down. I will get everything working, by 4 o'clock. Tell everyone to go have lunch." And so he ordered pizza, and they went. There was this really nice part of a walk that was outside. It's kind of where guys, when that was a factory, they burned their garbage there. But it was kind of nice. Had a nice light. Had a big tree, really a big weed. But anyway, so I kind of tore it all apart, put it all back together, put major disconnects for where he needed his juice, put big plugs, and then made takeoffs. And 4 hours later, he walked in, everything worked great. He goes, "That's amazing. I can do that. I've been living with this crap for the." He goes, "What's it cost?" And I said, "Well, it's going to cost about $500 in materials because I put it on Grandpa Stall's tab, and me just $1,000, everything in cash." And the guy, not a problem. He went off. He handed me $1,500 in cash. He goes, "What's your phone number?" I said, "Well, I have this new thing called a pager. Here's my, I had a business card. Here's my." So that's how I got to know Andy Warhol. Anyway, so we were in this building, and it had full of junk, and we were like clearing it out. I had a friend whose girlfriend would take clothes and cut them all up and make other clothes. Anyway, and she had this little storefront I found for her on Canal Street, and it became Canal Jeans, right? Which then became the Banana Republic, and she sold out and made, when the corporation bought her out. I think they bought their own Banana Republic. Anyway, so this place became an amazing. My friends who were artists just came and perused through it and got stuff and started making things out of it. And one of the things that nobody wanted were these sleeves. And so we, Beth took the sleeves and just pulled them on her leg and said, "These are great. The biggest problem is dancing. It's like you work, and all your muscles are hot, and then you have to stop for a second or two, and your legs freeze up. These are great." So in the 70s, when they had those leg warmers, they came from us. And then somebody saw all these artists in Lincoln Center wearing these things on their legs, and they turned it into and my wife used to get so upset with me because Donna Ann, because I would keep doing stuff like that, and then it become the big rage. "That's your idea. You're to me." I said, "No, listen. By me doing this, no kidding. Constantly amazed how what I just don't burn down." Yes. Yes, no one understands electricity. No one knows the Ohm's law. So, if you knew that, it would be fine. Yep. Well, Ulysses, you can thank for me. Good old some leg warmers was. So anyway, so Beth did that. So anyway, so we're dancing in, Robert Wilson's dance company, and I fixed up. His loft was about to burn down. He had the stupidest lighting because he was trying to make movies, and it was terrible. Everybody in those days were trying to make movies, right? So, and I was part of Naboth and IATSE, so I saw a real, guys like what's his name, who's a New York movie maker who made Manhattan, and Annie Hall, that guy. I worked as his electrician. So, because I got it, Grandpa Stall got me into Naboth and IATSE, right? And I could have stopped right there. And that first time I made like 90 grand a year. I was working as an electrician for Grandpa Stall. I worked on movies. I worked on theater, and that year I made 90 grand. Without breaking a sweat, right? And I could have stopped then and just done that and really made serious cash. I mean, I would have made way more than that. It was my first year. I could have started. I could have been like Bob Goddard. He made $2 million. Even in the 70s, he made $2 million, right? And I mean, that's also how I got it in Naboth and IATSE was Bob Goddard. But anyway, so Beth and I, Robert wanted to he had these two shows he wanted to do. One was called Einstein on the Beach, and the other one was later Postcards to Queen Victoria or something like that, right? And that came out of Chris Knowles, the kid got all the money and was Robert's cousin and was autistic. So Robert got hold of his cash, but he had to take care of Chris, and he couldn't stand Chris. He couldn't stand, Chris's autism. Me, I thought it was great, and so basically I got to live. Beth and me would babysit Chris and take him to Arloft. But he had this amazing his parents' house on Lexington Avenue near where the park is, where the hotel is, Gramercy Park. Right kind of off of Gramercy Park. This beautiful Victorian house was Chris's, and he had a really beautiful. Well, he was more than a butler. he was like Chris's. Who's the guy in the Green Hornet? The Chinese guy. Anyway, that was his butler, and he had this beautiful grandma, old crone kind of Irish woman as the cook and ran the house and did all that. The other guy was like, the butler, the chauffeur, the protector, Cato. Thank you. And so we would go over there, and they loved us, and we loved them. And it was like going to Christmas every time we went there. The food was amazing. The house, we got to sleep in a master bedroom. And Chris once said, "No one sleep here, but you can." Okay, Chris. So I would take care of him 24/7, right? And so I tried to make him my electrical helper because by this time Wwhat was, already, taken over by Andy Warhol. And so anyway, and Wwhat was not a very good electrical helper. He's a great kid though, and a great person. And anyway, so I knew this. I knew people like that, like Rosanna Dawson, right, the movie star. She was in one of our OR's outstanding renewals, abandoned buildings that we took over, and I put legal electricity in there so the people couldn't get thrown out because when the marshal would show up, they would just show their electric bill and that was it. Electric bill is the gold standard of residency, and that's why I did it. Right? And that's why 500 families got to keep their own apartment, didn't have to pay rent, didn't have to pay taxes because we put it into a nonprofit, right? And it was their equity, and no bank would take our money, so we had to start our own, credit union. And when I went back to New York, I left New York City in '88, didn't go back to 2011. And when I went back in 11, I walked down Avenue B. It was like, what the heck happened? It's like, and what happened was all those people had equity. So they got to start businesses and send their kids to college. And that's what happened to Dawson. I remember when she was a little girl and she was sitting in this cold basement hallway in one of our buildings because it was real hot, it was cool down there. And she found this box of books. It's one of my boxes. I had boxes of books everywhere. And I said, "Oh, you like to read?" "Oh, yes. I love especially this." And she was reading Shakespeare. I think she was like 7, right? So I said, "Wow, this is cool." So I got all the books she wanted. And then, so there were no schools there. So we were getting all the kids into like New York City before the O's had some really great public schools, right? They had like New York Arts and Sciences. That was a great school. We got her into that. And that's how she got into theater and movies, right? And if you ever listen to her, whenever she goes in front of a camera, I mean, this girl still has her coda song, meaning she still knows where she came from, and she talks about it all the time. Yeah, she's an A-lister movie star, and but she is about it. Anytime anybody wants somebody to talk about the poor, that she's always there, right? So, if you listen to Democracy Now, they had a nice 4th of July show, and they had Howard Zinn's American History, and there's another one that his students wrote called American History after the year 2000. And when they first put it out, they read it aloud in City Hall. And Dawson was there to read parts of it. So, was Cato in the Pink Panther too? Could have. I don't know. Let's ask Ulysses. Was Cato in Pink Panther too? Anyway, so there, Beth and I were having a great old time, and we're in Robert Wilson's dance company. And I was their photographer, their filmmaker, their physical therapist, their psychotherapist, their historian, right? And I was connected to a lot of people. So and see, Robert just rubbed everyone the wrong way, right? Anyway, so he's kind of burnt he's got money now through Chris Knowles' money, and he decides to take his to do the two operas he wants to do. They're not complete, and that's when he met Phil Glass as to be his music here. And so we traveled, and he would hit every rich person he could get his ass into their house, and grub whatever he could. So we went around the country doing this at rich, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and L.A. and places like that, Louisiana, and Nolans and stuff like that. And so Beth and I have a great old time, and so we get to New Mexico, and we're in this rich guy, and he was such a sycophant, and so we were a collective, a communist collective, right? And we all had to agree on what we were doing, communal living, right? And I think Robert liked. I don't know what Robert liked actually, but anyway, so we're in this guy's place, and he was constantly going on about up the man, the revolution, like so. Anyway, we're having dinner at this guy's place, and he's got servants, and he treats them like dirt, and and every time he's going, up the revolution, all these Mexican folks are looking at him like this, and half of us who are politically aware are like, yeah, let's kill them all. And so, if you ever saw that movie Once Upon in Hollywood, and Tarantino's film, and they show the ranch, that was like this, but it was weirder. Anyway, so we're there, and the phone rings, and it's for Robert, and he's talking. He goes, "This is amazing, right?" And what it was the Shah of Iran had called up Robert and said, "Listen, I'm putting on an arts thing. Iran is this amazing. They're not Arabs; they're Persian, and they have this amazing culture, right, of music and theater and art, and you name it, right." And basically, the Shah was trying to break it out and basically turn Iran into the new Disneyland of culture and art. And so he wanted to have this big festival, and all these European and white Anglo-Saxon artists would come and show up, this new arty thing, and basically assassinate whatever indigenous art that was there. He wanted Iran to be turned into Europe, and because he had gone to school in Switzerland, and the basic people, no, we're Persian, no, and that's why they had revolution, right? Not they're not Muslims anyway. So, and the Ayatollah Khomeini, he was he was being kept in Paris for 25 years by the CIA, so and MI5 to hold it over the Shah. If you don't do what we tell you, Shah, we're going to bring this insane guy in, and that's what they did. They gave Shah cancer. They brought him in because they needed the loyal opposition. And again, the poor people of Iran just got taken advantage. Who was the first country to ever? Hey, America's great. Iran was the first country to acknowledge we existed. Iran did, not England. Well, nobody other than Iran. So I asked in the rude tradition. Yep. Mayor Baba. See, AKA Mayor Baba. I love you, James. So anyway, so we're in this rich guy's house, and we're in Santa Fe, and I call Santa Fe the City of Walls because it's this old traditional Hopi place that the rich came in and just kicked all the Hopi, and Aztecs, and everybody who was in that neck of the woods out, and took it over and made it there like, oh, aren't we cool? And so this rich guy's in this house, and it had Vegas roofs and all of that kind of stuff. And so anyway, Robert gets a phone call from the Shah who wants him to come to Iran, and he's going to pay all the costs of transportation and staying and food and blah 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 blah, and give him a check for $2 million for like being there for 2 weeks, right? And so Robert says, $2 million, oh my God! And so he goes, okay, we're going to go to Iran, and all of us political folk said, wait a minute, this guy is terrible. We can't do that. It's against our ideology. What are you, a hypocrite? He goes, $2 million. And Robert's standing at the door of the bus, and he goes, everybody who wants to be rich and famous, get on the bus. Everyone did, including Beth, right? She goes, honey, what do you get on the bus? They need you. This is going to be great. It'll be great. I said, listen, I don't need any of this for my career in theater or art. I'm already the dude. And she goes, yes, yeah, I guess you're right. She goes, so what are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. She goes, I wish I had your guts. I said, baby, don't worry. I don't, I want you to go on this trip and get everything out of it. Learn everything you can. She'd never been out of the country. This is a great thing. I'd already been like all over the world. So I said, oh, this is something good for you, baby. Go, go, go. This is for you. Not for me, not for us, for you. Really, really, really focus on that. And getting your crew together, because most of the really good dances were hers, right? So, because she was the primary dancer and she was primary choreographer. So she said, okay, I love you. And that's the relationship we had until we got married, right? And how it worked was whenever we'd bump into each other, if we were both not having a significant other, we would hook back up and be with each other as long as we could stand each other or it would last. So anyway, they get in the bus, they take off. And now this guy who's like, how are the people? The bus, is not even out of sight. He turns to me and goes, get out. I go, what? He said, you're just riffraff, get out. I said, what about the people? What about, fuck you, get out. This is my house. My money, mine. I said, okay. And it was about 10 o'clock, right? So I walk out, and it's like deader than dead. I walk about 2 miles to where 25 is, which is a north-south road, and interstate. And I get to that exit, the closest one, big sign. No hitchhiking, no bicycles. Blah, blah. If you are found on this road, you're going to jail. It's a $3,000 fine. You're going to jail for 6 months. And I go, okay. So I'm at the top of the exit. And, no one's going on. It's like by this time, it's 12 o'clock at night. There's no one in. It's a beautiful spring evening. The sky is full of stars. I'm just like, and that was the beauty. And this is 1972, 73. And this is the beauty of New Mexico at the time. There's no lights. Even Santa Fe had no real lights, no big box stores, no big parking lots. So it was a truck stop at 10 miles that way. There was a little glow. The sky was just livid with stars. And, bus would come in the car, whatever. And I would run down the hill and put my thumb out. And I come run back up the hill, And so I'm doing that for about an hour. And I run down the hill when I see these lights coming. And it was it wasn't like a stream of cars. A car would come by every 10, 15 minutes, just one car, not like 10 in a row, just one car. So I would, and you could almost tell which was a cop car. I didn't see a single cop car. So I run down this one time and I stick up my thumb and this car goes, shoom, and then I see the lights turn real bright. backs up. Guy opens up the door, and it's a super, super orangey red Ford Mustang, right? And the inside is canary yellow, and it's covered in shag rug, ceiling, everything, posts, floors, everything. So I get in. Guy looks like Santa Claus. Kind of like I was 21 or 22, depending. It was 72. I was 22. So anyway, he goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "Wherever you're going." He goes, "I'm going to Albuquerque." So, right. And when he like stopped and he backed up, he had Illinois plates. I said, "Illinois, where? Chicago?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I just retired from being a professor at the at Chicago University, the big fancy one where the law school is." And so, and he was a Chicano, Apache, Hopi, and a little Japanese, and he had been one of the code talkers, right, in World War II. Then but he looked whiter than white, right? So he got to be an officer, whereas the Indians were not, and he got a lot of medals, and he saved a lot of lives, and he went on, with a GI Bill. He got a lot of degrees, and he spent his whole life being, a scholar. So he and I just hit it off. And when he was going to Albuquerque, because that's where he kind of grew up until he was 15. And then he realized he was really smart. And they sent him to prep school in New England, and the rest is history. So his mother had stayed there in Albuquerque, and she had a neighborhood store, and she owned about 7 traditional houses with the Vegas and the whole thing, and this circle house, and real traditional. And but she was old when she died, and he inherited everything with little cash. And when we got there, the house that she lived in, there was like a travel trailer stuck to it, and that's what she lived in. And all those places kind of had electricity, kind of had water, kind of had septic. Nothing worked. And even so, she had kept the electric bill and all these things because it showed she owned them, right? She had deeds to them, but people who had these kind of properties, they were taken away. And that neighborhood would turn into something valuable. Those people would, even though they had them like 19 generations, they still lost it, right? So electric bill she was a smart lady. So she, the electric bill was like $6 for every house, right? So they all had a meter. They all had live wire in it, which when you had that, it gave you the right to have water and septic, right? And they were like at the end of the line. And so I fixed everything up in about 3 months. And the guy I just, I kind of looked around and there were tools there. So I said, yeah, I can fix this place up. And I did. And as I did, there were Chicano who lived there. And basically there were some guys who had some really good skill sets, carpentry, plumbing, and they had no real place to live, and they had a family. I said, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fix this up as a team, and these things are so big, and because I had the center core, that was like, it's like being outside and all the circle house, they had windows on the outside, but they also had windows on the inside into the center core that was kind of open. So we basically split them in half and put about 20 people into these 5 big buildings. And he kept, and every person who was important, male, in my 2 years there was named David, except Rick. Rick's the only, but he was a dick. I mean, he was a dick. Richard, right? Richard Powell. He had Dick Powell Electric. He was my electrical boss. Anyway. And that's how I ended up working in Los Alamos and San Diego and Kirkland Air Force Base and up there in in the uranium mines near Mount Taylor. And Taylor was the guy who basically killed all the Indians. He institutionalized the Indian Bureau of Welfare, and basically tried to kill them all. Right? Did his best. Him and the guy on the $20 bill, one of the guys who tried to kill the Indians the most. So anyway, um, I spent about 6 months in Albuquerque doing this and meeting a lot of people and having a lot of fun and you know and being tight with the Chicano and and basically those 20 people were basically 20 grandmas who had all of their families. So there were about 150 people in these 6 buildings, right? It was like a nice little community. And it's what later on a friend of mine would coin a phrase, a bio community, right? And another friend would call it community cultivating, because in the center we put plastic over the center, and we were growing vegetables in all the center, because it got amazing sun. Just had to keep it a little bit warm from the desert winter. Anyway, so by the time I had been in New Mexico 8 months, I was like cruising. And so I got to a place where I didn't do anything. All the Chicano guys were growing pot out there outside of town and selling it in town and making pretty good money. And I'd help their grandmas, so they'd always give me whatever kind of herb I wanted. And they wanted me to basically, they'd give me a pound and say, go sell this to college white kids. And I'd give it away, right? And then turn those kids on to these guys, and that's kind of how it went. So they would give me cash. That was a good service for them. They liked that. So anyway, and I had a friend of mine in New York who used to sell marijuana out of a pizza parlor, right? And she would deliver the pizza. So in town near the college, they started a Mexican restaurant with delivery. And so that was like, I said, I have a friend in New York who does this. So they did. They got grandma making the Mexican food and delivering along with the tacos, an ounce or two. So anyway, it was all going great. But I didn't really have to work. I'd get $300 or $400 a month. And back in 1972, that was pretty good. That's like, almost $1,000 a week. And so my, David, the guy, Santa Claus, and he's running the store. And what he realized was his mother basically just, if the people didn't have money, she would just write it down and they would give her money whenever they had money. And it never tallied to the, she was just feeding the whole community and just barely getting along. And so he basically did the same thing. He rejiggered, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And we were growing all these vegetables. So it's working great. But mostly I just kind of hung out, read books, went down to college, picked up girls. And, I wasn't doing that. And he said, I like your style, but you got to do something. Otherwise, you're just going to be here forever doing this. And what kind of life is that? I said, well, that's what you're. He said, no, don't try and do that. I'm 70 years old. You're 22. No. And again, he was like the Dutch grandfather, right? So I said, okay. So I went and got the newspaper, looked at it, and there was this job where it says, so the first job I got was I was dressed as a clown working for Jack in the Box. And I was out front with the thing that you twizzle around, and I'm professionally trained by Carl Walk to be a dancer. So I'm like balleting and jazz dancing and using jazz hands and out there. And after 2 weeks, my boss said, I don't know what you're doing out there, but, and I had to come to work with a uniform on. So I left the job. He didn't pay me anything. And because he said I wasn't worth anything. And so I left with the clown outfit. And I had that for many years. The Sphinx that concludes consciousness simplicity through unnecessary experiences of apparent complexity. That's my life. You got it. Just call me the Sphinx, right? So you get really. Yep. So anyway, so my next job was I got for I worked for this concrete company and shooting gunite, right? And I wanted to learn about that, right? And so when I saw this, I said, sure. And I got paid $2 an hour to work out getting into Mexico. And it was still kind of spring. It wasn't the real hot, but and what we did was we would take jackhammers and we would punch these pipes underneath the house. And then with the gunite machine, we would pump concrete under the house because they build these brand new houses out in the desert. And they just put them on the desert and then it would settle and the house would be like this. So we would pump gunite under them. Instead of building footers to begin with, we would do that. Anyway. So one time, so I was doing that, and everybody was either on crank or drunk out of their minds. Everyone, the guy who was the overseer, everybody, right? I was the only person who was basically sober, right? So, and it usually took us one or two at the most cement mixers to do a job, right? And we'd do one house a day, right? And so we come to this one house, we're out there, and we use those jackhammers and hammer in the pipes, and we start pumping. Right? One cement mixer, nothing happens. Two cement mixers, nothing happens. 3, 4, 5, 6. By 6, I go, I think there's something wrong. This house should be like up in the air by now. And the guy said, well, just keep pumping until it. And I said, okay, I'm not the boss. And so by the 8th cement mixer, sirens started coming up towards us, right? And they said, what are you guys doing? And what we had done was we had punctured a culvert, a drain that is there basically when they have floods because they have no rain and all of a sudden they have a ton of rain and instead of houses washing away, the culvert. So we punctured that and we were dumping the concrete into the culvert and it was running downhill into the brand new mega mall. And was coming up through the drains in the floor of the mall. And this was quick drying cement. And so people, it's like mud coming up and people like, ew, and all of a sudden they couldn't walk and people were getting stuck in the concrete and no one knew where it was just coming up out of the drains. They had no idea where it was coming from. And one smart cop, because there was only 2 big cement companies in Albuquerque at the time, and at that time, the only real deal of anything was the Air Force Base that was in Albuquerque. That's what made Albuquerque was that Air Force Base. And anyway, so one smart, he called up the 2 guys, said, where are you guys delivering concrete uphill? And they said, oh, yeah, we just spent, one morning sent up 10 mixers up to this place. It usually only takes 2. So they went up there and stopped us from doing it. And everyone got fired. I thought I'd still have my job because I kept, I was the only sober one when the cops showed up. I kind of showed them everything and turned off the machine. And the overseer, hey, what are you doing? Stop it. No, we got to keep pumping. And anyway, everyone got taken away. I was let go. I got fired. And the overseer, because he was the brother-in-law of the wife of the guy who owned the place, he didn't lose his job. Anyway, so my next job after that one was, until I'm getting paid nothing, was I'm a pretty good electrician. I know about electronics, so I got a job installing car stereos, right? And all these rich people come in with their car. They want the big speakers and boom, 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 and run the wires and hooking them up, and I'm getting paid 75 cents an hour, right? And I don't have a car. I live 5 miles away. Albuquerque has no mass transit whatsoever. So I got myself a bicycle and would have to, get up at 3 in.the morning and ride there to get there at 7, and then ride back at 5 because I work from 7 to 5. And I said, listen, buddy, give me some money so I can at least get something to eat. I mean, I had something to eat, but I had no money. And I mean, I was still getting something from the OGs, and yeah, but still, I had no money, right, from that guy. So he says, we get paid. You get paid every 2 weeks. Your first payday is 2 weeks from now, right? So anyway, so about the day before I'm going to get my paycheck, I'm so tired of riding a bike so tired of really not eating anything. I've got a pretty bad, I look like a black guy. I'm like black like me. I'm in the sun so much. I'm getting really dark looking. People are, using the Ed word on me. Really, blonde hair, blue eyes, just because I got dark skin, I got the N word. Really? So, and there are really no black people in Albuquerque. Well, in Chicano, but anyway. So, so I'm doing this job, and I'm in the big, gigantic trunk of a Cadillac Eldorado, and I'm putting the speakers in the back, where the back seat is up there, and I fall asleep. I finish the job and I just kind of fall asleep, and I wake up, and there's food in the paper bag, so I start eating the food, and then the trunk. After I eaten pretty much all the food in the paper bags, I go to get out, and the trunk is locked, and I'm no longer in the thing. I'm kind of in this parking lot. I can hear it, and it's like I don't know where it is, but anyway. So, and then a car, and I hit my head, and I kind of, and so I kind of wake up when the car stops, and I'm kind of like still groggy, and the trunk opens, and this woman, sees me in her trunk and screams and slams the thing, hits me in the head, knocks me out again. And when I wake up, there's two cops with guns like this, right? And I said, wait. I'm not trying to hijack this lady. I was in her trunk, putting the speakers. Oh, you work for Larry's car? I said, that guy's scum. I said, yeah, tell me about it. Hasn't paid me yet. He goes, oh, probably never pay him. And he looks, he said, so you were hungry, weren't you? And because I ate all the groceries. And he starts to chuckle because, and he's, they were going to shoot me because it's a black guy, but then they saw the blue eyes and the blonde hair, and they said, And I did have ID, and I told them the story, and they actually believed it, right? So they took me home, right? They didn't take me to Larry or anything, but when, I went to go back, he said, that's it, you're fired. I said, what about my paycheck? He said, forget it. You did so much time, and I did blah, 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 blah. And this guy always had, because he didn't, no credit cards, you had to pay cash. So he always had a roll of cash this big. So anyway, so that was my third job. And then, I was talking to this person who said they could find jobs. And the guy goes, oh, what can you do? And I said, I'm a really good electrician. And he goes, but you worked at Jack in the Box, you worked at, this job. I said, why didn't you work? I said, I could, unless I had a car, none of these morons would hire me. And he goes, oh, I think I got you covered. So he gets on the phone, he calls this guy, Blue Bunny Employment. And I go to downtown where the only semi-skyscraper there is the bank building, and the head DOT is down there. And I get see how we're doing for juice. Yeah, I think I can finish the story up. And so anyway, so Jamie, the messages are retracted. Is it something you said, or did you just not want to, don't pray anything unless you don't want me to see it. But get a hold of me at the dudawake42 at Gmail if you can. So this has been going on for an hour and 33 minutes. And it's not going to rain. I probably have 20 minutes before it starts to rain. I want to get home before it rains. So anyway, I'm I find the place and I go up the elevator, and so that guy had called the Bunny Realist, employment agency. So, yep, the Dude Awake 42. Yep, that's it. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Yep, all small caps. I mean, all small letters, even the T. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Right? No capital T. So anyway, I think I'm pretty sure. So anyway, very good. Yep. So I go up there and I walk in, and this woman looks at me and she goes, "Are you the electrician?" I said, "That's me." And then I hear this voice, from the inner sanctum, send that kid in here. So I go in there, and he goes, so you're an electrician? I said, yep. He goes, what's Ohm's law? I tell it to him. He says, okay. He hands me this packet. And I look at it, and it says State Master Electrician's License Test, right? I kind of take it out. And the cover letter says you have to, been a journeyman electrician for 15 years with W-2 form. You had to have this, you had to have this. I said, I don't have any of this. Forget it. Go in that room, take the test. I go and keep taking the test and seeing things, what it says. I said, but I don't. I said, take the test. No, I take the test. So I finish it in about half an hour. He puts it there. He has all the answers. He goes, you're hired. He goes, you almost got 100. Very good. And he goes, so here's the deal. I need a high voltage electrician. That's you, right? You have this whole section about transformers. You got 100% right. Nobody ever has done that. So you're my boy. And this job pays $33 an hour, right? And this is 1972. That's like getting like $600 an hour, right? He goes, you're going to be working out in the desert. You go out there Sunday afternoon. You come back Friday afternoon, right? They feed you, they house you, transport you, and you have to have master electrician's license. I got that. You have to have a class 33 transportation license. I got you covered on that, right? And I own a bank. That bank downstairs I own. I'm going to start a bank account in there for you, and that will be an LLC. So when you're done with this, after 2 years, you'll have a master electrician's license. You'll have a class 33, which meant you could drive anything, tractor, trailer, bulldozer, helicopters, anything, right? And so, and you'll have an LLC. You'll be able to start your business like that, and you've been working for the best electrician in the country. I said one of the best. And you'll be able to do pretty good. So there's a place I could have stayed and been really, really, really rich. This is 1972, right? And none of New Mexico had exploded yet. The West hadn't exploded yet. A little bit of Texas around, Houston and the space thing. Anyway, so I go, that's cool. So that means I'm going to make $17 an hour, and that includes sleeping there. So from Sunday to Friday afternoon, I get paid 24, 7 or 6.3, right? And so that means I'm going to be taking home $1,500 a week in 1972, right? So I signed a little paper. No, I don't. What happened goes, he goes, go downstairs. No, I do sign this one piece of paper. It means I'm going to do the thing, right? He goes, go downstairs and get your license. He gets mad. I'm saying this kid down, he needs a class 33. I go down there. I just walk in. This girl waiting for me, holds my hands and takes me in the back. There's Madge. She sits me down at the Polaroid machine, takes my picture, runs who I am, makes sure I'm not, anyone's looking for me, and gives me this license because it almost makes me an FBI agent. I mean, it just gives me clearance, all kinds of stuff. It just shows this I can do anything, right? So I go back up. I got that. So he has this nice little, what you call it, those jackets that people used to wear that showed that they were cool, the longer coat or whatever they call those jackets. And inside it had this secret inside thing, and inside it was this little leather thing that had blunts in it, right? And had a check, or not just a check, had a whatchamacallit, a thing showing that I had $1,500 in his bank, in my bank account that he started downstairs. It's already $1,500, right? And he said, and here, this is kind of like a credit card, so you can use it at gas stations, and you don't need cash, and a debit card. Way before debit cards, because it was his bank. So anyway, all this was great, and he goes, congratulations, we're now partners, right? So he's going to make $17 an hour off of me. He doesn't get the overtime, but I do. And so I I was getting 75 cents an hour in the car speaker place. To real estate, it's chosen one's duty to rep off Gentiles. Yep. Um, the Talmud. Yep. Email, but you never answer. Try me again today. I will. I mean, I don't look at it immediately. It takes me. So do it now, and I'll see you up there. Okay. So here. Ugh. Okay, there I am. I'm on my Gmail. Do it now. I'll see it now. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. One of my old wives got a hold of me a couple of weeks ago, and we are emailing each other. It's very cute, and we're being very. We're not talking about the good old days or any of that. We're just being. We're not really like, oh, I miss you, that kind of stuff. Just we're being very theologic. That's what we're being. Yeah, loads of cash then. Yep. It was about. Yeah, $7 to sterling. Yep. So anyway, so I go off and do that. So we shake hands, and he goes, "Go in that room." And they were having a party for everyone who got a job. That was the thing. You got a job today. And there were all these people who got jobs. So like, I got a job, and I think I got the best of the jobs. There were other people who got other stuff, and everybody was just drinking, just hitting the sauce because it was an open bar, and everyone was just plowing it down. Not a big drinker. And there was this really cute little girl over in the corner in the nurse's outfit, right? And she's wearing, not everyone has the jacket, the simulated leather jacket, the belonger jacket. And so I kind of go over her. I said, so you're one of the team. You're one of the gang. You're one of the, not everyone's got money. You, I, and a couple other people have a jacket. You talk to them. And she said, no, they're too old. But you're cute. And she goes, do you have a place of your own? I said, yep. She goes, well, I don't. Can I come stay with you? And I was like, yeah. Sounds like a plan. And I said, do you have a car? She goes, oh, yeah, I have a car. See, I didn't have a car. I was riding my bicycle everywhere. Anyway, so, I said, so what'd you get in your secret pocket? And she goes, I'm not telling. It's a secret. Right? So, we go downstairs. We, kind of, and she's just new to Albuquerque, and she's gotten a job in a hospital, right? And she's a special nurse, like the ones that work in operating rooms with the drugs. That's her forte. So anyway, I stick my bike kind of in her car. It's like half sticking out. I said, let's go. I got a great place we can go have dinner. It's great. Albuquerque had great Tex-Mex and Mexican restaurants, just the best. And that's why I'm spoiled. I can't really eat Mexican food around here. There are a couple places that are real deal people. But anyway, so we go there. We have a great meal. I take her to this place called the Tender Trap, which is all rhythm and blues and jazz, and she loves that kind of music. And because University of Albuquerque has a big music department, even then. So anyway, so we have a great time. We come back to my place. And she loves it. This big round house with a garden in the middle, and I had the smallest of the Hogans, and it was so we were at that, right? So she had her own place. She could stay there. And I would go off for a whole week, right? And, I'd leave Sunday and come back Friday night. And anyway, so it was great because all we do is have sex and smoke herb. Because she ran into my boys, and I said, listen, guys, don't screw with her. She's my girlfriend. And they said, we'll treat her like our sister, which I did, right? So she really liked it. And Santa Claus from Chicago, he thought of her as, he said, well, now you got your life in order. Well, this is great. You married this girl, and she's a nurse, and you're doing great. You're going to have your own company. I feel good, better than when you're sleeping on your own couch there. So it was going great, and we had a great relationship. We had the most amazing sex, and I'd come home Friday, and she'd have a really nice meal. What she would do is go over to Mrs. Chuchi Fritos and get her to cook all this great Mexican food, and enough of it to last, Friday, Saturday, and then I'd leave Sunday. And she would make eggs Benedict. She was good at that, Mexican style. And we would just smoke and have sex and eat really great Mexican food. And so, by about, so I went out there, and it was by that time it started to get winter, and it was to be in the desert, and it's really cold, and I'm sleeping in this gigantic like hangar with like 200 guys, and they're all jacking off and shooting heroin, and no one seems to care. And there's like 4 people down. It was a gigantic. They were going into Mount Taylor, which was the Hopis Indians' most sacred place called the Snake Goddess, and they were driven straight down to where the uranium they were taking out was like weapons grade. It's like they didn't have to process it. And so, and that wasn't, philosophically, religiously, spiritually, theologically, that was like a big no-no these guys were doing. Anyway, so every week, maybe 5, because there were about 1,500 to 4,000 people working on this mine, facility, because we were building it. It wasn't running. They were digging it. We were building the facilities. I was working on all the high voltage, the transmission distribution. That was my specialty. So anyway, we're working on this stuff, and my boss, or the guy, not Dick, but the guy who's giving Dick all the money, says to me, "I want you to go down because we have a lot of high voltage going to this section of the mine, and no one knows what to do with it, and you're the guy, and so go down." I said, "No, that's not on my contract." I said right away, when they told me it was mine, I'm not going in the hole. And the guy goes, "Well, what would it take?" I said, $15,000. He says, "But it's only going to take you 2 or 3 hours." I said, $20,000. So he goes, "How about $5,000 cash? And I'll give you a car." I said, "Okay." So, and this was 900 feet straight down. And I don't know if anybody knows about mining, but go down, and they have where they clear out a space that is like a football field, right? And they call it a mezzanine. That's where they have all the equipment and the this and that all set up. It's like in the military where you put all your resources to go out and do something. How are we doing on time? We've got about 15 minutes left. So anyway, I basically say, "So where do you want it?" So I the high voltage comes down in pipe, goes to the first distribution, right? And so I have a few guys who work with me who are like mechanics, and they're not on drugs, and they're not stupid. They never worked on this stuff, but it's all done. I said, "This is just like wiring a duplex outlet." So I showed them how to terminate this. I said, "So this is how this goes in. This is how you do this. Then you take it, all the pipe, all the wire, everything is in. This is how you strip it. This is how you connect it." And so they were working on that. And then 2 guys that we had about 20 terminations in each of these transformers, right? Well, we do that, and so by 2:00 we've done it all, right? Well, again on the little telephone, and I said, "Okay, torque it up." And so they don't. So we test everything out. Everything's perfect, and it's about 3:00, right? So half the people working down there, their shift is down there. So there's maybe 20 guys down there. So when we went down to the elevator, this big board, it's called the safety board, and they had these little dots, right? And there was 2 of them. One you would pin on yourself, and the other would stay on the board. So the operator, the elevator, and everything else, and the safety range, when they were doing explosions, nobody's supposed to be down there. And so, and if there was just one yellow dot on that board, that meant somebody was down in the hole. And so I go down, so I'm down there, and all those guys go up, and we got my little clipboard because we still have another set to do tomorrow. So that means another $5,000, right? So I kind of, but they saw how everything was done. They saw how I how the switching and the disconnecting and the termination and how, like I said, it's just wiring a house, but super high voltage. Just got to be a little more careful. So so I'm down there, and all of a sudden, I'm way at the end of this tunnel, and it's not as nice as where we were working. It's obvious they're still like putting up trunks and doing things, and it's like this is where they're still digging. Right? It's not. They haven't spread the concrete on the ceiling and all that. So I'm like just like going through it and seeing what was what and what we needed for the next day. And then all of a sudden I hear meaning they're about to do a explosion down there. But I'm down there. I look, I had my my little yellow dot on my thing. I made sure the thing was up on the board. And there's an emergency phone. I pick it up, it falls off the wall, and the wire stops. It's just a red phone with a handset, and the wire goes to nowhere. And I'm going, I'm screwed. And so I'm looking around into these pallets with 75-pound bags of concrete where they're going to spray this stuff up on the ceiling. And so there's one that's, right, there's about 4 of them. And one of them, they've taken bags off. So there's almost a little house. They took it out of the center. So there's 3 walls of concrete bags. And so I start taking other bags and I make a little igloo out of it. Around that wall, I put this igloo wall, and I bring a couple bags on the inside and cover it. That's at night. And I have, a kind of sweatshirt because it was cold, but down there it's kind of warm. And so I wrapped around my head my T-shirt and the sweatshirt around my head, and I hunkered down in the fetal position. And then, because the thing first it was going, and then it would stop, and then it was like, and then it was the countdown to explosion, boom, right? And that's why I really can't hear out of this here, other than the nun breaking the little stirrup, that explosion. But if I hadn't had that thing wrapped around my head, I'd probably be totally blind, because when I came out, I looked like an albino. The dust, the concrete dust. I mean, there was nothing when I pulled myself out of that thing. The guys had just started to show up to see how the explosion went, and they found this little igloo, and then I kind of came to, and they were starting to pull it apart, and they pulled me out, and the bags were ripped apart by the shrapnel explosion. I mean, if I hadn't done that, I'd be. If I just stood there going, woo, woo, so, and I looked like an albino, meaning that dark skin I had was gone, because all that dust was just impermeated into my skin. Anyway, so, and like I said, 5, 6 guys died every week on this job because it was just like that, right? And so I went up there and I was screaming at the guy, and he was just drunk and stoned. And I told my boss, I am never going down in that. I called Dick, you asshole, blah, blah, blah. How much do you get paid with? And he said, when he was really, I said, I'm leaving right now. No, can't leave. Please don't leave. I said, Dick. And he said, I got 20 grand to get you go down that hole. You gave me 5, and I want half of that. We go down it. Not, never, ever, never. Not going to do it. So that was a nice little, I came out alive. I got whiter than white. And and what had occurred the second week I was there, I didn't have a vehicle. And I got my big check. It was like $2,500. And I went into Grants, New Mexico. That was the neighborhood. You might have heard of Grants, New Mexico, right in the Four Corners. Anyway, so I go there with these guys who I work with who are just really, and this guy's got a van. So I go in the van, and we had these things called lineman coats. It was like a sheep cut in half, gutted, right, and turned inside out. So the fluffy part of the sheep was on the inside, had big hood, and the skin, fascia, was on the outside. So it was like, really tough, right? So, and they went down to your ankles, right? And had lots of pockets and a couple on the inside. So we went up to this bank, and the bank was kind of what you call it, like a trailer. You know, I mean, if you wanted to rob the bank, all you had to do is hook it up to your pickup truck and drive away with it. And every second Thursday was when everyone. So there was like $500,000 I went through that thing every second Thursday. But anyway, I go in there. You know, I got my little check, and she looks at it. She goes, "Oh, you're one of Mr. Bunny Boys." I said, "Yes." She goes, "Well, I have his bank has sent a your account number to us, and so you'll have $4,000 in your account." I said, "Really? No, I thought he was only putting." Anyway, so I was a good investment. He wanted me to be happy, so I said, "Look, give me $100, right, in 20s." So the other guys, so we did that, and we went over to the only thing that was there was this place that was a restaurant, a bar, a dance hall, a place where prostitutes prostitute, a barber shop, and a clothes store, right? And in barber shop, you could get showers and massage, you name it. So go in there, and the guys go straight to the bar. Me, I go straight to the barber shop. Because of my grandpa being a barber, I said, "Okay, I need to get cleaned up. I need to be right." So they, took me. They showered me down with a fire hose, and the girls scrubbed me off and gave me a happy ending. And got my hair cut up, because my hair was getting pretty scruffy. And that clothes and 4 places. Great turtle. Yep. Turn over. Hope he's saying, "Yep, that's what happened." How much time do I have left? Oh, we're getting down to 9%. Oh, this is called a cliffhanger. So I'm coming back tomorrow or the day after tomorrow and finish. I'm going to pick up right at this place because things about to crash. I will just say that after then, so I'm going to finish this part of it. So I get all that done. I go into the place, buy myself a nice pair of cowboy boots, Tony Lamas, and a nice pair of tight jeans and a real, it's not even close, but a really nice cowboy shirt and a cowboy hat, right? And so I go and have a steak dinner, big potato, and these girls come talking me up, blah, 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 blah. And I just think they're girls, and there's no other guy there, so they're just chatting me up. No, these are prostitutes wanting, Anyway, then I danced with a bunch of them, and I'm a pretty good dancer, so I was spinning them around and stuff. And so, anyway, once they go, "Don't you realize, moron, we're prostitutes. We want money for sex. What do you think?" I said, "I don't need it. Thanks anyway." So they just walked away and went to the bar and just started smoking cigarettes and drinking. And so this guy comes over and he's laughing hysterically. He goes, I go, "What's so funny?" He goes, "You know those guys you came with?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "They left." Now, when I got out of the van, it was like 20 feet to there. I didn't want to wear that gigantic coat or my wallet, so I put the wallet in the secret thing and put it in the trunk and left it there. And I went in, and so he goes, "So why don't you just, you can come home with me. I'm working in the mines too. The bus takes us there. I'll give you some of my work clothes. My name's Bob." Okay. So anyway, so I sleep on his couch. We wake up at like 5. He makes breakfast. I put on the outfit. We get on the bus. I get there by 6:30 when we're supposed to meet up in this place where we meet our supervisor and we talk about what we're going to do that day. So I walk up to this and our supervisor. He's a black guy. I mean, a real black guy, right? But he's well educated. He's an engineer. This is the 70s. They're showing that they're not racist. Anyway, so, but he's just, lowest man on the totem pole of clipboard guys. And he's very organized, very good guy. I liked him a lot. So he's got his clipboard and he's reading this thing. And I see like, state symbol on the thing. And I go say, "Hey, Bob, what's up?" And he looks at me and he literally turns white and keels over. And I like catch him and put him down. I said, "What's up?" And he looks at me and goes, "You're dead. You're dead. You're a ghost." Ah. And I still look like, I wasn't. This was like a month later when they try and blow me up. And so I look at the letter, and it says that these morons in the thing got so drunk they were shooting down this state road, and because of all this mining here, they would put gigantic bulldozers and equipment when they got offloaded right on the side of the highway, and these clowns, boom, went right in the back of a gigantic D6 or whatever it was, right into the blade, and just got turned into goo, right? And so the only way the guys could figure out who was in there is by their coats. You know, those big coats survived. The guys didn't. And my coat was in there with my wallet in it and was covered in blood. And so I was in the list of dead, right? So from that point on, I was known as the dead guy. Now I've had a lot of, the dude, doctor, double doctor, Al Bob. I've had a ton of nicknames. But for about 6 months, I was known as the dead guy. So especially after the mining explosion, right? It was like, and that's when I told, get me out of here. I'm worth more than this to you. You're right. And that's when I started working in Los Alamos and San Diego and Kirkland Air Force Base. That's the Air Force Base in Albuquerque. Anyway, so that is where I met Grandfather David. Between that thing with the dead guy and the mine explosion, there was about 3.5 month period, and that's pretty much after that. 2 weeks later, spring hit. It was like boom. It was like super cold to like really nice. And so one night I just couldn't stand because I had these stadium lights on this place. It was never dark. Even sleeping in this big thing with all these guys, I could never sleep. And so I walked across, and it was like, you better hurry up here. I was, right, and I was looking up at the stores, and it was unbelievable. And it's like 40 miles in any direction. I was out in Big Mesa, stumbling on tumbleweeds and sage, and I fell over a little guy, and get off me. And I got up, and I picked him up, and dusted him up, and it was Grandfather David, right? And he looked at me, and he looked up at the sky, and he looked around, and he goes, so you work at that mine? Because Mount Taylor, it was still dark, but the light was shining it over. It looked like something, out of Close Encounters, And he said, you work over there, don't you? Can't stand it, can you? You want to get out of there? He goes, you're coming home with me, He goes, look how big this place is. He goes, you were looking up at the stars, right? You weren't looking where you were going. I go, he goes, so was I. I grew up here, and I was doing the same thing. And here we did this, and you fell on top of me. The odds of that are astronomical. The great maker put us together. Sláinte, Al. Yep. So I'll pick up from that point, okay? Because the story is even better on the other side of this. So I got to go. Love you guys. Catch you later.